In this video, I'm going to give you the secret to creating better content than almost any other creator out there. And I can tell you, as someone who has over 60 million views on their content and has built an audience of hundreds of thousands of people, I can tell you that if you follow these steps, your audience will grow, you'll make a ton of money, and your life will change forever. So let's get into it then. The first tip is to start saying things that scare you a little. So here's the thing. When you start off on your journey to try and become a content creator, you might fall into the trap of trying to be as polished and as professional as possible because you want people to take you seriously. Because all the successful creators you watch and all the big YouTubers that you watch, they look so professional, right? They've got the expensive cameras and the amazing editing. And so you think, okay, if I want to compete, if I want to also be successful, then I need to sound like them. But then what happens is, and I've done this as well, is you start watering down your actual personality and your own unique story. Because when you try to sound too professional or too polished, or you're trying to sound like other creators, then you kind of end up making videos that feel a little bit empty. And the reason for this is because you're leaving out the elements of your story that people actually need to hear. So let me give you a personal example. So about a month ago, I posted a video to this channel that completely took off. And it took my channel from getting about 2 or 3 views a day to about 6,000 views a day. It was absolutely crazy. And in that video, I talk about things like mental health. I talk about things like self-doubt and my own overthinking and these quite personal topics. And as a massive introvert, I do like to keep myself to myself, so sharing these kind of things wasn't the most comfortable feeling at first. But it turned out that, again, those were the parts of my story that other people really needed to hear. And I got so many comments from people saying things like, I feel the exact same way, or I thought it was just me that felt like that. And that's what made me realize that people don't want polished, professional creators anymore. You know, we have enough of this AI generated content and all that other nonsense, that what people want now more than ever is to watch real, authentic creators genuinely sharing the vulnerable parts of their story. So yeah, if you want to start creating content better than 99% of other creators, you've got to start saying things that scare you a little, or maybe make you a little bit uncomfortable, because at the end of the day, those are the parts of your story that can have a real impact on the person watching your video. And that actually brings us nicely onto step 2, which is to use AI, but in the right way. So in my opinion, AI is probably one of the best things to happen to the world of content creation, and also the worst. And it's funny because as I'm filming this, YouTube just released a massive update. This is literally just 2 days ago, where they're essentially demonetizing a lot of these AI generated channels. And if you haven't heard about this, this is a huge deal, because it shows that even platforms like YouTube are trying to steer things back to real, authentic creators and trying to minimize the amount of AI slop, let's call it. But on top of that, there's another trap that I see a lot of new creators falling into right now, and that is that they're using AI for everything. So they're getting ChatGPT to write them an entire script, you know, in like 2 minutes, and then they're using ChatGPT to come up with all their video ideas, all their video titles, and even reply to comments and things like that. And as a result, they end up with very kind of flat, forgettable videos. And here's why. AI is kind of designed to give you the average of what's already been said 1,000 times before. So if you use ChatGPT and AI too much, you are by definition going to blend in with everyone else. But having said that, I still think that AI can be an incredible tool for creators if you kind of treat it like a creative assistant. And I could actually make an entire video about this, but in my opinion, the best way to use AI is to use it to refine ideas that you already have, instead of using it to replace thinking altogether. For example, one way that I do this, and I do this with every single video now, is when I have a thumbnail ready for a video, I will paste the thumbnail into ChatGPT, and I'll basically say, is there anything glaringly obvious about this thumbnail that needs to be fixed? So can you give me 5 tips to improve this thumbnail, and rank them in order of importance? And 9 times out of 10, it actually comes back with something very, very useful. So it'll point something out to me in the thumbnail. Maybe the text is too small or something like that. And it's really good for just pointing out small things like that that you might not have noticed yourself. So yeah, use AI, but use it intentionally, because at the end of the day, people can tell if your content isn't coming from you. Okay, so step number 3 is a nice quick one for you, and I want to talk a little bit about your gear. So one very common trap for new creators is they think that the one thing holding them back is the fact that they don't have an expensive camera or, you know, the perfect lighting setup. And I actually fell into this trap myself. So before starting this channel, I was considering buying the Sony FX3, which is a $4,000 camera. But the truth is that yes, that stuff does help a little bit, but it's probably not the one thing holding you back. What might actually be holding you back is your audio. Because at least for me, I can happily sit through a YouTube video that was, you know, clearly filmed on an iPhone, but what I can't do is sit through a video with bad audio. And maybe it's because I did used to work in audio. So I used to be a full-time music producer. That's a little bit of George Alexander lore that I've never shared before. So maybe that is why it bothers me so much. But I don't think it is just me. I think for most people, if you don't have good audio on your videos, then most people are just going to click off. So right now, I'm going to give you the best, easiest way to get beautiful sounding audio, which is going to massively level up your videos. So if you do use an iPhone or any kind of phone to film your videos, that's completely fine, but the audio isn't going to be great. And this actually applies to most cameras, even expensive ones. The built-in audio within the camera is usually not great. So if you're going to make one investment into your videos, I would recommend picking up a small microphone that you can clip onto your clothing, a little bit like the one that you can see right here. And if it helps you, I'll pop up some recommendations on the screen right now. And once you have your microphone, I would try out this tool right here. So this is Adobe Podcast. It's a completely free tool to use. And you basically upload your audio files and it uses AI to clean up the audio and remove any hum or, AC noise in the background and things like that. And it makes it sound really, really smooth and kind of more pleasing to the ear, essentially. And I don't know if it works for everyone. I don't know if it fits every single person's tone of voice, but I would definitely try it out. It's completely free. And if you do want to try it out, I'll leave a link in the description for you. It's not sponsored or anything, but yeah, it definitely helps me a lot and maybe it'll work for you as well. Okay, so step number 4 is the art of articulation. So now you understand that you don't need to sound polished or professional. You've got something meaningful to say. Your audio is sounding nice. Now you need to actually sit down and speak out loud to a camera. And this is where most people just freeze up. And I actually had this issue so badly. So I would have my script, I would sit down ready to film, and yeah, I would just freeze up and I just wouldn't really know what to say. And if you've ever felt like that, welcome to the one skill that most people never even realize they need to build, and that is articulation. Because here's the truth, most of these successful creators that you know are not necessarily the smartest people in the room. They're not even necessarily the most credible people in the room. They're just the ones who have learned how to articulate themselves in a way that actually resonates. So how do we do this? How do we get better at articulating our ideas? Well, I'm not going to tell you that you need, perfectly structured sentences or that you need to start using loads of fancy words. The best way to articulate yourself as a creator is to talk about what you love. So I want you to imagine that you have some very niche hobby. Let's say you're into something that not that many people are into. Let's say you're into Warhammer or something like that. And now I want you to imagine that your best friend comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm thinking about getting into Warhammer. Can you tell me a little bit about it?" Now just imagine how you would feel in that situation. You'd have this opportunity to talk about something that you genuinely love. You'd be so excited and you'd have all this, natural magnetic energy. And that energy right there is exactly what you want to tap into when you're filming videos. And by the way, I say this as a very average communicator. I don't use loads of fancy words. I don't have perfectly structured sentences. But I think one of the main reasons why people are starting to resonate with my videos and why this channel is starting to grow is because I'm genuinely talking about things that I truly care about. And the reason I talk about content creation through the lens of things like psychology and personal growth is because I love that kind of stuff. And I just love to sit down like this and share those ideas with you. So if you've ever struggled to talk to a camera or articulate yourself, try to tap into the energy of talking to your best friend about something that you're obsessed with, because that is the version of you that people actually want to see. Okay, so the 5th and final step is to leave your ego at the door. So there is a beautiful idea in the world of writing, which is the most important part of a story is not the main character, it's the reader. And that actually perfectly applies to content creation. Because when it comes to becoming a successful content creator, it's not about you, it's about your viewer. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is you never want to fall into the trap of trying to sound too impressive or trying to sound like you have everything figured out. Instead, focus on the actual real human being who is watching your video. Focus on what they need to hear, focus on what they might be going through. And that is how you start creating content that actually makes a difference. But there is one more step to creating better content than 99% of people, and that is mastering the hooks of your content. So in this video right here, I'm going to give you the exact hook formula that I used to blow up my own content and become a full-time creator. So yeah, click onto that video and I'll see you there.